Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Diego Castro. The palace emphasized that they have nothing to do with the recent impeachment complaint filed against Vice President Sara Duterte. Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin reiterated President Bongbong Marcos's previous statement of not pushing for an impeachment complaint. PBBM insisted that an impeachment complaint against his former running mate will not benefit the public right now.
The statement of the president is unambiguous na wala kaming kinalaman dyan. And we are not going to encourage that. Any suggestion na political yan or instigated by our side, no.
Meanwhile, Senate President Chis Escudero told senators to refrain from commenting about the impeachment complaint. He said once the Senate has to act as an impeachment court, any perception of bias or prejudgment would affect the public's trust to the Senate as an institution. Batangas Representative Jervil Luistro says the misuse of confidential funds could form part of the grounds for Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment. Now, here's an excerpt from her interview on The Big Story.
Have you guys met and talked as early as now how this will all go, how the flow will be?
Actually, we have not met yet, but I received a notice from the Committee on Justice that will be having a hearing tomorrow, but I have yet to inquire what will be the agenda, whether it will be about the impeachment complaint, which was filed the other day, or should it pertain to the bills which both committees, the Blue Ribbon and the Quad, have filed already in relation to the ongoing investigations.
Congresswoman, as we know, the name Mary Grace Piattos, actually there are other strange personalities as well that has come up as beneficiaries for the confidential funds. But before we get into that further, the PSA has already announced their findings that they did not find any Mary Grace Piattos. If at all, how surprised are you with those findings?
During the time that I was interpellating Gina Acosta, I have this feeling already that the certification of the Philippine Statistics Authority will render negative result, because you will remember that during the previous press cons of Young Guns, to be particular, they made the pledge of 1 million pesos if this Mary Grace Piattos will come out to the open, no? But after a few days, at inabot pa nga ng PSA certification, there was no Mary Grace Piattos who showed up. So I have that feeling already na wala talagang Mary Grace Piattos, and this certification only proves na talagang fictitious ang personality ni Mary Grace Piattos, and it gives more question to the utilization fund.
Sorry, Congresswoman.
Understand,
You're coming in a bit short.
Din namin on the 4,000 crucial fund, how many names actually appear in the database?
Okay. How do you think the non-existence of Mary Grace Piattos, at least from the first search, no, of the PSA, how will this what are the implications on the next Quadcom hearing? And do we have any idea when the next Quadcom hearing will be? That would be the 13th. Okay. I think we're having some
I am not
problems.
so certain about the date, but I believe that we have a meeting tomorrow for the Quad. And for the Blue Ribbon Committee, I was intimated by Chairman Joel this afternoon that the next hearing will be next week.
Okay. So, okay, mukhang naputol si Congresswoman. Nawala siya, am I right? Okay. So far, ang hindi naman nagulat Si Congresswoman Luistro
Oo.
na wala ngang Mary Grace Piattos. Pero from what I gather through the choppy internet connection, may tatlo siyang meeting bukas. Kasi may meeting yung Quadcom, may meeting yung Committee on Good Government or yung tinatawag nilang Blue Ribbon Committee, and there's also a meeting of the Committee on Justice. So she has to attend the three meetings. And the common denominator is still Vice
the Vice
President.
President. But as Kong said, no, in terms of the impeachment complaint, well, they haven't really set a date yet on when they will be tackling this. But we do know tomorrow, no, magkakaroon ng second
right.
impeachment complaint naman na ifa-file ang Makabayan block. So we're gonna see also if they will be consolidating that. Pero yung naging issue na rin ng marami, no, is the bad timing daw ng pag-file nitong mga impeachment complaint. But I believe we have Congresswoman Luistro back on the line. Kong, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I'm
There
sorry
you
about the intermittent signal.
No worries. So wait. So before we got cut off, can you carry on? You mentioned, we were just talking about it nung nawala kayo, kung natatlo yung meeting mo. So all three committees, Quadcom, Good Government / Blue Ribbon, and Justice Committee, lahat may meeting tomorrow. Mapupuntahan mo ba lahat ng meeting na yon?
Wait, for the Committee on Justice, that will be a hearing.
A hearing na.
For the Quadcom, that will be a meeting. But for the Blue Ribbon Committee, we don't have any notice yet about a meeting or hearing.
The National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, has filed another subpoena against Vice President Sara Duterte. Now, this is still about her supposed threats against President Bongbong Marcos, First Lady Liza Marcos, and House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Another subpoena was filed after the Vice President did not meet the NBI on November 29. NBI is expecting to meet VP Sara on December 11. Let's now take a quick look at today's other headlines. In the Philippine Star, President Marcos has expressed hope that the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage would find ways to ensure that Filipinos would not suffer from the impact of climate change. Marcos noted that addressing the effects of climate change is an enormous task that requires everyone's participation. And in business world, the national government's outstanding debt inched up to a fresh high of 16.02 trillion pesos as of end October, amid the peso's decline against the US dollar. It went up by 0.8% or by around 127 billion pesos from 15.89 trillion pesos as of end September. Mary Grace Piattos does not exist. Well, that's based from the records of the Philippine Statistics Authority. That is why lawmakers are more confident about their theory that the personality was created for the office of the Vice President's misuse of confidential funds. Marian Enriquez with the report.
Mary Grace Piattos is not a usual name, but it sure rings a bell when talking about the office of the Vice President. She was one of the beneficiaries of the OVP's confidential fund in 2022, based on acknowledgement receipts submitted to the Commission on Audit, and later on scrutinized by the House Committee on Good Government. Since then, lawmakers believed this personality is just a figment of someone's imagination. They even pulled 1 million pesos as reward for any information on Mary Grace Piattos. Ultimately, they tapped the Philippine Statistics Authority, and what the PSA found may have just confirmed Congressman's suspicion. There is no Mary Grace Piattos in the civil registry system. There is no evidence that she was ever born nor married. The verification for a death certificate also turned out negative. The PSA said it could do a more comprehensive search for Mary Grace, but they would need more information like names of the subject's parents. Recall that OVP Special Disbursing Officer Gina Acosta said she was not aware that a Mary Grace Piattos existed, but she did know people in Davao that had Piattos for a surname, but spelled with a single T. For House members, the recent finding of the PSA only proves one thing.
Kung non-existent si Mary Grace Piattos, I guess, obvious na ang implications nito. There is fraud and falsification.
Ang mga opisyal sa Office of the Vice President, led by no other than Sara Duterte, ay nag-imbento ng mga resibo para madepensahan hindi tamang paggamit ng confidential funds.
The OVP is yet to address this recent development, but Vice President Sara Duterte earlier said that it's her staff who's in charge of acknowledgement receipts. Still, lawmakers are convinced that the buck stops with Duterte. For them, she has to be accountable when it comes to taxpayers' money, whether or not set aside for confidential expenses.
Ang sinabi lang, confidential siya, pero even that confidentiality is not absolute, especially when there is a notice of disallowance. At may mga red flags tayong nakita.
The House has already asked the Justice Department's help for a thorough check of receipts pertaining to the OVP and DepEd's secret funds. For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
Jerry Tigo crossovers stained PLDT high-speed hitters perfect record in the PVL All-Filipino Conference. Jerry Tigo pulled off a thrilling 5-set win against PLDT. Cez Robles led the crossovers with 17 points anchored on 14 attacks and 3 aces. The two teams have a 3-1 standing in the conference. After this match, Chocomucho Flying Titans also attempted to stop the winning strike of sister team Creamline Cool Smashers. Unfortunately for them, Creamline maintained their perfect record after 4 sets. Gemma Galanza shined in the game after registering 24 points on 22 attacks, 1 block and an ace, and 17 excellent receptions for Creamline. The San Miguel Beermen beats the Phoenix Fuel Masters 107-104, starting their PBA Cup title defense on the right track. Player of the game, Marshall Lassiter, delivered the game-winning jumper with 2.9 seconds left, capping a rally from a 16-point deficit. Phoenix's Donovan Smith had 37 points, but his effort, along with strong showings from Tyler, Theo, and Jason Perkins, fell short. San Miguel next faces NLEX, while Phoenix is up against Barangay Nebra. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 9 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News.